My name is Claire. I never expected betrayal to come from someone who once cradled my grief. Vanessa had always seemed like the perfect sister-in-law. Beautiful, radiant, and magnetic in every room she entered, she was everything I wasn't. Where I was reserved and thoughtful, she was charismatic and loud. But none of that mattered, not at first. Because when I lost my first baby, she held me while I sobbed. That was 2 years ago, and the pain of it still feels fresh when I let myself remember. I was 20 weeks pregnant. We had already chosen her name, Lily. A soft, delicate name for the child we had longed for. When the heartbeat stopped, it felt like mine did too. I didn't want to see anyone didn't want to leave the house, but Vanessa showed up uninvited with fresh flowers and a casserole. She sat on the edge of my bed and brushed my hair back from my face. "Claire," she whispered, "you don't have to go through this alone." I believed her. Vanessa and I grew close after that. She invited me to her yoga classes, tagged me in every family event, even called me her little sister in her Instagram posts. And when she announced her own pregnancy later that year, I tried to be happy for her. I really did. I showed up at her baby shower with a wrapped basket of homemade baby books and little shoes I had been knitting since she told me the news. She looked stunning that day, surrounded by her wellness brand followers and family. There was soft music string lights draped across the backyard and a table full of green smoothies and almond flour cupcakes. I stood quietly in the back, sipping water, smiling when anyone looked my way. Then came the name reveal. Vanessa gathered everyone into a circle and held up a pastel sign painted with floral lettering. "Lily June," she said, beaming. "We can't wait to meet our sweet Lily." I froze. The world didn't spin, it slammed to a halt. Lily. My Lily. The name I had told her about in the hospital. The name Mark and I had whispered to each other late at night, imagining who she might become. I felt the cup slip slightly in my hand. Everyone clapped. Vanessa smiled in my direction as if waiting for my approval. I couldn't move. After the crowd thinned, I found her near the dessert table arranging macarons on a plate. "Vanessa." I said, my voice barely audible. "You knew we had chosen Lily." She didn't flinch, just looked at me and laughed as if I had told her a joke she didn't quite get. "Well, yeah," she said, "but you didn't use it. And it's such a pretty name." Her tone was breezy, almost patronizing. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "It was my daughter's name." "Claire," she said with a sigh. "I'm sorry, but it's just a name. You're being kind of sensitive." My hands were shaking. I wanted to scream, to throw the plate of cupcakes at her feet, to demand an apology. But I didn't. I turned and walked away, my ears ringing. That night, I told Mark. I explained what had happened, what she had said, and how devastated I was. He rubbed the back of his neck the way he does when he's overwhelmed. "She probably didn't mean anything by it," he said. "Names are names. You can still use Lily someday." But he knew we wouldn't. We both did. That name was no longer ours. It had been taken worn like a costume by someone else's child. I went to bed that night wondering if I had overreacted, if maybe I was just still grieving and raw. But something inside me shifted. I stopped attending Vanessa's yoga classes. I unfollowed her blog. I deleted every post that had her tagged in it. The next time she called, I let it go to voicemail. And though I didn't say it out loud, I knew. This wasn't the last line she would cross. I tried to move on after that baby shower. I told myself maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Vanessa really didn't mean anything by it. But then it happened again. A year later, Vanessa had another baby. A boy this time. The family group chat buzzed with excitement as she posted the first photo of him wrapped in a blue blanket with a matching beanie. "Welcome, baby Jude." The caption read, "Our little warrior." I felt my stomach twist. Jude. That was the name we had picked for our second baby. The one we lost at 18 weeks after what the doctor called a silent miscarriage. Vanessa had known. I remembered sitting across from her at our kitchen table, sobbing over a cup of cold chamomile tea, telling her how we had chosen the name Jude because it meant praise in Hebrew and how we hoped that name might bring us luck next time. She had nodded sympathetically, held my hand, told me I was strong. And now here she was announcing it to her 300,000 followers like it was her own inspiration. I didn't say anything that time. Mark didn't even bring it up. I think part of him didn't want to believe it. I think part of me didn't want to admit I was losing the ability to trust the people closest to me. So I started writing things down, not in a dramatic, angry way, just a quiet list of dates, screenshots, things she posted, names, she mentioned, phrases she used. I copied down the captions from her blog posts, noted how she called her children gifts reclaimed from the universe, something I had said once in therapy. She was absorbing my language like a sponge, repackaging my grief as brand content. She started a podcast series called Sacred Motherhood and introduced herself in one episode by saying, "I've walked with women through their losses, and those stories have shaped my journey as a mother." My stories. She meant mine. One afternoon, I came across a blog post she wrote titled Turning Pain into Purpose, where she detailed her inspiration for naming her children. Jude came to me during a dark season, she wrote. I was supporting a family member through a devastating loss, and in that space, I found clarity about what resilience truly means. I stared at the screen, the words vibrating with theft. She wasn't just taking names now, she was taking my story, twisting it into something she could profit from. The final straw came 6 months later when Vanessa got a golden retriever puppy. She posted an Instagram reel of her kids playing with the dog in their backyard, her toddler giggling as she called, "Come here, Ella. Good girl, Ella." I stopped breathing for a second. Ella was the name we had chosen for our third baby, the one we had only just lost 3 months before. This one had barely made it to the second trimester. I hadn't even told many people the name, but Vanessa knew. I had texted her during one of my lowest moments, pouring my heart out. She had replied with a simple, "I'm here," and nothing more. And now she had taken that name and given it to a dog. A dog. That night, I walked into our home office and opened a new spreadsheet. I labeled it Vanessa, Timeline. I added dates of my miscarriages, dates of her announcements, cross-referenced blog posts, and Instagram captions. I created folders with screenshots, backup folders in case my phone got lost or hacked. I saved everything to a cloud drive that Mark didn't know about. I wasn't ready to tell him what I was doing. He still thought it was all a big coincidence, or that I was just taking things too personally. But I knew better. This wasn't sensitivity. This was psychological theft. Vanessa was feeding off my grief, crafting an identity out of my pain, and gaining praise for it. Her followers adored her. They commented things like, "You're such a light and your strength inspires me as a mother." They didn't know she was stealing that light from someone else. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream or break anything. I sat at my desk for hours, combing through posts and photos, building the story I had never wanted to write. I didn't know where it would lead yet, but I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. Names mattered, stories mattered, and if Vanessa wanted to keep taking from me, she'd soon learn that some names don't come without consequences. The day Vanessa posted her most infamous blog entry was the day I stopped trying to see the best in her. It was titled, "Your Loss My Gain," and the subtitle read, "How Pain Can Blossom into Beauty When We Learn to Let Go." She wrote about transformation and emotional alchemy, about finding meaning in what others couldn't handle. And right there in the middle of her self-congratulatory monologue was a line that made my hands shake. "I've watched loved ones suffer deep loss," she wrote, "and from that darkness the most meaningful names have emerged. Each of my children carries a legacy, one that honors grief and turns it into light." I reread it 3 times. Then I went into the comments section, which she never moderated, and saw dozens of women thanking her for her vulnerability. "You're the reason I named my daughter Hope," one wrote. "Your story of resilience helped me name my son Liam," said another. They all thought she was the survivor. They didn't know she was standing on someone else's grave to give her TED Talk. A week later, she launched a new series on her podcast called The Name Garden, where she broke down the origin and emotional story behind each of her children's names. In the episode about Ella, she giggled as she recalled how the name came to her in a dream during a difficult chapter. She called it a soul whisper. I called it theft. I knew I couldn't let this continue. But before I could make a move, something else happened, something I never saw coming. Vanessa posted a video from her backyard, her toddler running through a row of baby blue balloons. "It's official," she announced. We're expecting baby number 4. We couldn't be more excited. I stared at the screen, numb. She was pregnant again. Another opportunity for her to scavenge through my memories for a new narrative. I knew what was coming, so I made the first move. I called her one afternoon, acting unusually quiet and tender. I found something I told her, my voice soft and cautious. I was cleaning out my grandmother's attic, and I came across an old diary from our great-grandmother on Dad's side. It had a name in it, one she said was sacred. It was only used for girls who were born during times of renewal. Alithia. I paused. She said it meant truth. Vanessa gasped. I could hear her fingers already tapping her laptop keyboard. How do you spell it? She asked. Alithea, I said. There were notes about how it had been used by women in our family who went through hard times. I thought it might mean something to you. I sent her fake scans of yellowed notebook pages and a Pinterest board I had created the night before with antique birth certificates, symbols of doves, and fake quotes about rebirth. Vanessa fell for it instantly. Within 3 days, she published a post titled, Our Family's Hidden Legacy, and shared that she would be naming her baby girl Alithia Wren. A name rooted in resilience, she wrote. A secret gift passed down through generations. Her followers ate it up. She went viral on TikTok again. Thousands of comments poured in about how magical and meaningful it was to preserve family history. I watched from a distance, calm and silent. And then something happened that I hadn't dared to hope for in years. I was late. I felt nauseous, tired. At first, I chalked it up to stress. But a few days later, standing alone in our bathroom, I saw 2 lines on a test that I never thought I'd see again. I was pregnant. Truly pregnant. Ultrasound confirmed 6 weeks. Healthy heartbeat. Nothing abnormal. My OB looked at me and smiled. This one's strong. Mark and I decided to keep it quiet. We told no one, not even our parents. After everything we'd lost, we couldn't bear to share hope too soon. I kept working. I took prenatal vitamins. I meditated. I stayed off Vanessa's blog. And then the invitation arrived. A custom-made card in a cream envelope tied with a blush satin ribbon. Please join us for the name reveal and celebration of baby Alithia. She had turned it into a public event. Of course she had. Hosted at a vineyard in Napa, it promised live music, candlelit speeches, and a photo wall of the Wren women, her invented term for the female legacy she now claimed as her own. Mark looked at the card, then at me. You don't have to go, he said, but I had already made up my mind. No, I said. I want to be there. The day of the event, I wore a long navy blue maxi dress that floated just right over my now visible bump. Vanessa's friends fluttered around in matching linen sets, snapping photos and complimenting the floral centerpieces. Vanessa stood on stage with a glowing smile and a glass of sparkling cider in hand. This baby represents the best of me, she said, the parts of my past that taught me how to rise. She held up a framed print of the name. Alithia Wren, she declared. Applause. Cheers. A photographer snapped away. That was when I stood. Calmly, I placed my hand on my stomach. Vanessa noticed me, her smile faltering just a bit. Actually, I said, my voice carrying over the soft music, there's something I'd like to share. All heads turned. I stepped forward into the soft afternoon light and pulled back my shawl, revealing my pregnant belly. A collective gasp moved through the crowd. I'm 28 weeks today, I said, and we've chosen a name too, one with deep family meaning, Alithia. Vanessa's face went pale. Her hand trembled on her cider glass. The air felt electric. And for the first time in years, I felt power return to my voice. The drive home from the vineyard was quiet, except for the occasional ping of my phone. Notifications lit up one after another, mostly from people who had attended the event, messaging me in shock or confusion or hushed congratulations. I didn't respond to any of them. I stared out the window while Mark drove one hand resting gently over my belly. He didn't say much, but he squeezed my hand every few minutes, his way of showing he was proud. The moment had landed exactly how I wanted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. It was quiet and piercing and perfect. Vanessa didn't try to speak to me that day. She stood frozen as I left the gathering photographers still standing with their cameras lowered, unsure of who the real story belonged to. But I knew it wasn't over. Not with someone like her. And sure enough, it wasn't. The first strange thing happened a week later. I came home from work to find my bottle of prenatal vitamins missing from the bathroom counter. I asked Mark if he had moved it, but he said he hadn't touched them. I checked drawers, cabinets, even the trash. Nothing. I shrugged it off, figuring I had misplaced them, and opened the spare bottle I kept in the linen closet. I told myself it was pregnancy brain. But 3 nights later, I took my evening gummy, and within 2 hours, I was doubled over on the bathroom floor. The pain was sharp and familiar and cruel. We rushed to the hospital, but deep down, I already knew. No heartbeat. The doctor's face was solemn as he gently rested a hand on my shoulder and said, "I'm so sorry." I didn't cry right away. I sat in silence staring at the wall as nurses moved around me. When we got home, I tore the house apart, looking for that original bottle. It had vanished. I checked the trash bin outside, digging through old takeout containers and coffee grounds until I found a plastic pharmacy bag. Inside was the bottle. Empty. My heart froze. Vanessa had visited our house 2 days before, saying she wanted to make peace and drop off some books for the nursery. She had gone to the bathroom twice while she was there. Mark had chatted with her in the living room, completely unaware. The pieces clicked together. The missing bottle, her sudden interest in our pregnancy, the fake apology. I took the empty container and locked it in my filing cabinet. Then I opened my spreadsheet and added a new column, suspected tampering. The next day, I drove across town to a small independent pharmacy where Vanessa's friend Becca worked. Becca was a soft-spoken woman who had always seemed uncomfortable around me, like she was holding something back. I found her in the vitamin aisle and waited until she noticed me. When she did, her face turned white. "I don't know anything," she said immediately, backing toward the stockroom. "I didn't ask anything yet," I replied calmly. "But you just told me more than enough." I cornered her near the end cap display of prenatal supplements. "Did Vanessa ask you to switch anything in my prescription?" She looked down, fidgeting with the label on a bottle of fish oil. "She said it was just a calming herb," she whispered. "Something natural to help with your anxiety. She said you were having trouble sleeping, and you believed her." My voice cracked. I didn't want to do it, but she had dirt on me. I took some anxiety meds from work once, just to help me get through finals. She found out somehow, said if I didn't help her, she'd tell my supervisor. "So you tampered with my prenatal vitamins," I said, trying to stay calm. "I don't know what she gave me to put in there," Becca whispered. She handed me the capsules already made. I didn't ask. I stepped back the floor, spinning beneath me. Becca reached for my arm. "Please don't tell anyone. I'll deny it. I have a job. I have a baby of my own." "So did I said and walked away. That night, Mark held me while I shook in bed. For the first time, he didn't try to fix it or explain it away. He just listened. I showed him the bottle I'd recovered from the trash and told him everything Becca had said. His face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. "She tried to take our baby," he said quietly. Again. We installed new locks the next day, security cameras, password protection on every device. We even set up mail forwarding to a P.O. box after I noticed some letters from the adoption agency had gone missing. I stopped going to work. I couldn't focus in a classroom full of kids. I spent my days at home documenting everything, reviewing every message, screenshotting every blog post, and rebuilding my evidence. I knew I'd need it because Vanessa wasn't finished, not by a long shot. She wanted my name, my grief, my story, and now it was clear she wanted my baby too. The moment I realized Vanessa was preparing to rewrite the narrative again came not from her blog, but from an email blast. She sent it to her entire newsletter list, nearly 50,000 subscribers, with the subject line, "A Sacred Name for a Sacred Journey." In the email, she described how she had chosen the name Alethea Wren for her upcoming daughter, calling it a name passed down through generations of strong women. She included excerpts from the fake diary pages I had created and Pinterest graphics I had fabricated. She quoted things I had invented as bait, turning them into gospel for her brand. She was hosting another event, a larger one than the Vineyard gathering this time, a live-streamed baby shower with sponsorships from 2 parenting companies and a candle company offering a limited edition Alithia scent. I stared at the screen, my mouth dry as I scrolled past the RSVP link and through the comments. They were full of praise. You always pick the most meaningful names. This story touched me deeply. I'm naming my daughter Alithia, too. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to reply to scream into the void. But instead, I closed my laptop. I waited. A week passed. Then another. I stayed silent online. Vanessa's followers noticed and started speculating that maybe I had distanced myself out of jealousy or emotional instability. A few made cryptic comments under my old posts about how grief can turn people bitter. Vanessa never responded, but I knew she saw them. She loved passive attention. That was her brand. The day of her event arrived, and I watched the live stream from the guest list email I had created under a fake name. The venue was a rented rooftop space in downtown San Francisco. There were flower walls, champagne towers, balloon arches in shades of ivory and gold. Vanessa walked in wearing a flowing cream dress, her bump on full display, glowing like the queen of fertility she had made herself out to be. She opened gifts on camera, thanked her sponsors, and shared stories about each of her children's names. Then came the speech. This baby, she said, placing a hand over her belly, was named from a place of lineage and love. Alithia means truth, and that's what I want her to carry forward, truth, even when it's hard. She paused for dramatic effect. And to honor the women who came before me, I've invited someone very special here today. She looked toward the audience, but no one stood up. I was not there. I had made a different plan. At that exact moment, I uploaded a video to YouTube titled The Truth Behind the Name Alithia Wren. It was a 10-minute voiceover accompanied by screenshots, blog post quotes, timeline overlays, and the fabricated diary entries marked with watermarks saying, "Created by Claire Hartley." I explained calmly and clearly how the name was a trap created intentionally to expose a pattern of emotional theft and manipulation. I included timestamps, emails, and side-by-side comparisons of messages I had sent, and Vanessa's later public statements. I didn't call her evil. I didn't call her names. I simply showed the pattern. By the time her event ended, my video had 20,000 views. Within an hour, it had 50. A parenting forum picked it up. A TikTok creator made a stitch analyzing it. Twitter exploded. My inbox filled with messages from women saying they had suspected Vanessa of copying them too. Former classmates, yoga clients, even her ex-college roommate. Vanessa didn't post anything for 2 days. Then she uploaded a story saying she was deeply hurt by the unfair and false narrative being spread. She didn't name me, but she didn't need to. Her followers knew. The next day, I woke up to hate messages on my social media. My work email had 3 complaints from parents saying I was unstable and vindictive. Someone posted a screenshot of my old pregnancy announcement and added a caption saying, "This woman needs help." I sat on my living room floor staring at my phone, shaking. Mark brought me tea. He said we should take a break from the internet. I nodded, but I knew it wouldn't stop, because Vanessa wasn't done. That afternoon, we got a call from our adoption agency. We had applied months before, quietly hoping to adopt if we couldn't carry again. The social worker's voice was gentle but firm. "We've received a number of complaints about your stability and mental health," she said. "We're required to pause your application while we investigate." My vision blurred. I barely heard the rest of the call. Mark paced the room afterward, furious. "She's trying to cut off every path forward," he said. "Not just your name, your story. Now she wants your future too." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I got up and went to my file cabinet. I pulled out every record I had, the spreadsheet, the photos, the screenshots, the bottle from the trash. I took my laptop and began organizing it into one master folder, a war file. Then I remembered something. Daisy, Vanessa's oldest daughter. She was 9 years old and had always been quiet, observant. I had helped her with schoolwork before. She liked me. I texted her from my old phone, the number I used when I tutored her. I asked how she was doing. She replied in under 5 minutes. "I miss you," she wrote. "Mom says I can't talk to you." I typed slowly, carefully. I just want to know if you're okay. She replied with a voice message. I hesitated, then hit play. Her voice was small, trembling. Mom makes us lie about you, she whispered. She says you're dangerous. But you're not. You're nice. You always were. I don't want to lie anymore. I sat there, phone clutched in my hand, heartbreaking for the little girl caught in her mother's performance. I saved the message. I backed it up in 3 different places. I knew what I had to do next. It was time to confront Vanessa. Not online, not through passive videos or quiet exposures. It was time to look her in the eyes and say, I see you. I waited until the next family dinner to face her. It was held at her house like always, a sprawling suburban home filled with neutral tones, motivational wall art, and meticulously staged displays of domestic bliss. Mark and I arrived early, tension coiled in the space between our silence. We had agreed to stay calm, no matter what. Just observe. Vanessa greeted us at the door like nothing had ever happened. She wore her usual pastel maternity dress, her lips coated in a soft pink gloss, her arms open wide like she hadn't tried to destroy our lives. Claire, she said, pulling me into a hug before I could step back. You look radiant. I said nothing. Inside the table was already set scented candles flickering beside name cards and vegan dishes labeled with tiny chalkboard signs. Guests trickled in slowly. Her husband offered drinks. Her children played quietly in the corner. Everything was as curated as her online persona. But I wasn't there for the food. I was watching her move, smile, glide through conversations. It was all too clean, too rehearsed. After dinner, Vanessa excused herself to feed the baby and disappeared into the kitchen. Her laptop was open on the counter screen, still glowing. I moved slowly, casually, pretending to refill my water as I approached. I saw the browser still active open to her email. The subject lines hit me like a slap. Fertility herbs, urgent delivery, natural miscarriage support, homeopathic uterine relaxants. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, snapping photo after photo, hands trembling but steady enough to capture everything. Then her voice cut through the silence like a blade. What are you doing? I turned. She stood a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Reading, I said simply. This isn't your business, she hissed, stepping closer. That's my private computer. So is my uterus, I replied. She lunged. Her nails dug into my wrist as she tried to grab my phone. I yanked it away, holding it high. We struggled for a moment, the clatter of silverware in the next room drowning out our scuffle. Mark entered just in time to see the end of it. He rushed forward, placing himself between us. Vanessa stepped back, breathing hard, eyes wild. She's gone crazy, she said, voice breaking into fake sobs. She attacked me, but Mark wasn't buying it anymore. He looked at my wrist red and bleeding and then back at his sister. We're leaving, he said quietly. Her tears dried instantly. Fine. Run away like always. But don't think I'm done. The truth will come out. It already has, I said as we walked past her. At home, I uploaded the photos to my master folder. Mark was pacing. He couldn't sit still. She looked unhinged, he said. I've never seen her like that. It was always there, I replied. You just didn't want to see it. That night, she posted a new blog entry titled, When Family Turns Against You. In it, she described being physically assaulted by a relative who couldn't handle their own infertility. She hinted at being stalked, having her privacy invaded. She included a photo of a small bruise on her arm. Her followers erupted with support. They sent me hate messages. One even called the school where I taught demanding my termination. Another sent a handwritten letter to our adoption agency accusing me of manipulating children and faking pregnancies. The agency called us in for another interview. The social worker's tone was clipped. We're receiving pressure from the community, she said. Until this is resolved, we must place your application on indefinite hold. Mark held my hand as I tried to keep from collapsing. She's winning, I whispered to him as we walked out. Not for long, he replied. And then, unexpectedly, a shift. Becca, the pharmacist, texted me. Meet me, she said. I can't keep this in anymore. We met in a small public park near her apartment. She sat stiffly on a bench, eyes scanning the playground. She made me switch the vitamins, she said without prompting. I didn't know what was in them, I swear. She just said it would calm you down, help you sleep. She gave me pre-made capsules and asked me to replace a few each week so you wouldn't notice. I said nothing, just watched her carefully. I was scared, she continued. I had messed up at work. She found out. She said if I didn't help, she'd report me, ruin me. She still might, I said. You know that. I know, she said. But I had to tell someone. I'm sorry. She left quickly after that, disappearing down a side path. I sat on the bench for a long time, heart pounding. The confirmation didn't bring relief. It brought dread. Vanessa wasn't just cruel. She was calculated. She had planned every move, every message, every pill. I went home and added Becca's confession to the file, and for the first time I started printing everything. I placed the documents in a binder and labeled it Vanessa, evidence. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for every baby she had tried to erase. 3 days after Becca's confession, Vanessa escalated. She posted a full video on her YouTube channel titled, When Family Betrays You Complete, with sad piano music, soft lighting, and strategically smeared mascara. She looked into the camera and spoke directly to her audience about how she was being bullied, stalked, and emotionally tormented by someone she had once called a sister. She didn't say my name, but she didn't need to. Her followers were quick to connect the dots. She showed a screenshot of a message I had sent years ago, cropped to remove context, and described me as unstable, jealous, and obsessed. She claimed I had faked pregnancies for attention, that I had broken into her house, and that I was trying to ruin her children's lives. Comments poured in within minutes. She's sick. You're so brave for sharing this. Don't let her near your family again. My social media accounts were flooded. My inbox overflowed with vitriol. A woman from Texas sent me a 2-page email accusing me of endangering Vanessa's unborn baby. Someone else found my school's Facebook page and posted a review calling me a danger to students. I was called into the principal's office. He didn't fire me, but he asked me to take a leave of absence until this all settles down. That night, I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by printed screenshots, police reports, voice memos, and legal notes. Mark paced behind me, silent, as I pieced together a full chronological timeline of Vanessa's manipulation. I had everything from the fake Alithia name scheme to the vitamin tampering from Becca's confession to the recordings from Daisy. But I needed something undeniable, something so clear it couldn't be spun or reframed. That's when fate gave me the one witness I never expected. Daisy, Mark's niece, Vanessa's daughter. She called me again from a friend's tablet while her mom was out. Aunt Claire, she whispered, I'm scared. Mom says I have to say you're mean and that you yelled at me, but you never did. I don't like lying. It makes my tummy hurt. My throat closed. I asked her gently if she'd be willing to say that in a message. She said yes. I recorded it. Her voice was soft but firm as she described how Vanessa practiced lies with her and her siblings, making them rehearse stories about me. She ended the message with, I don't want to lie anymore. I just want to play with my cousins and be happy. I cried listening to it, not out of sadness, but out of the sheer weight of truth. A child shouldn't have to carry secrets like that. Mark cried too. It was the first time I'd seen him really break. She's destroying everything he said, even her own kids. I added the recording to the evidence binder and made 3 digital backups. That weekend, Mark's mother invited us to a family dinner. At first, I refused, but then I realized it was the perfect opportunity. Everyone would be there. No followers, no filters, just family. We walked into Vanessa's home like we were stepping onto a battlefield. She acted surprised to see us offered a fake smile and ushered us to our seats like nothing had happened. Dinner was tense. Every sentence felt like it was being weighed for hidden meaning. Vanessa made several passive-aggressive comments about boundaries, forgiveness, and not everyone being emotionally stable enough to be around children. I let it slide. Until dessert. As plates were cleared, I stood up and said I had something to share. I pulled a small USB drive from my pocket and handed it to Vanessa's husband. I think you should see what's really been going on, I said. You owe it to your kids. He looked confused, then curious, and left the table to plug it into the TV. The screen lit up with my timeline video, not the public one. A private version carefully laid out with dates, screenshots, recordings, and side-by-side comparisons. I narrated every step of Vanessa's deception. The family sat in stunned silence. Mark's mother covered her mouth. His father stared at the screen expressionless. Vanessa stood frozen, a hand on the back of her chair. When Daisy's recording played, Vanessa snapped. "This is manipulation," she screamed. "She's brainwashing my daughter." "You brainwashed her first," Mark said coldly. "You coached her to lie." "I protected her from your crazy wife," Vanessa shrieked. "She's not crazy," he said. "She's honest, which is more than I can say for you." Vanessa lunged toward the USB, but her husband stopped her. "You need help," he said quietly. "This isn't normal. You've gone too far." "I've done nothing wrong," she spat. "Everything I did was for love." "You don't poison people out of love," I said. The room fell silent. Mark's mother began to cry. His father stood and pointed at the door. "You need to leave Vanessa," he said. "Now!" She looked around at her family, realizing no one was on her side. She grabbed her bag and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. That night we filed for a restraining order, and I finally exhaled. The restraining order was granted within a week, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Vanessa went silent online, her accounts either deactivated or wiped clean. But silence didn't mean surrender. It meant strategy. A month later, our adoption agency called again. The social worker's voice was hesitant. "We've received a package," she said, anonymously sent. "It contained fabricated psychiatric records claiming you were institutionalized for delusional behavior." My stomach dropped. I went straight to the hospital named in the documents and requested my file. The admissions listed weren't mine. They were fake inserted into the system somehow. The administrator looked troubled. "Someone accessed this from an external terminal," she said. "We're launching an internal investigation." Another week passed before the fake entries were flagged and removed, but the damage lingered. I updated our file with the adoption agency, submitting notarized letters from my physician and therapist affirming my mental health. Still, they needed time. Everything was always about time. Vanessa's. Mine. The system's. While we waited, I kept building the evidence file. I documented every text she sent to family members, every veiled threat, every anonymous email. I tracked IP addresses, compared phrasing, gathered metadata. Mark helped silently, furious. One afternoon, his niece Daisy called again, this time crying. "She said I'm a traitor," she sobbed. "She said you stole her baby." "You didn't do anything wrong," I whispered, fighting tears. "You were brave." Days later, Vanessa's husband reached out. "I found something," he said. We met at a quiet cafe. He slid a leather-bound journal across the table. "She left it out. I didn't mean to look. But once I saw what was in it," the journal was a litany of cruelty, plans, schemes, grudges. Vanessa had detailed everything: her hatred toward me, her jealousy, her manipulation of Becca, her obsession with names. But what chilled me most were her entries about the vitamins. "Swapped capsules last Thursday," she wrote. "She won't know. It's just nature taking its course." We scanned the pages, photographed every one. Mark's brother agreed to testify if it came to that. "I'm filing for full custody," he said. "She's not safe." A week later, police showed up at our door with a search warrant. An anonymous tip had accused us of hoarding stolen prescriptions. They searched every cabinet, every drawer, and found nothing. But the neighbors watched. Again. The stigma stuck like sap. Vanessa had sent a message tucked under our doormat. "You started this. I'll finish it." I gave it to the police. They said it wasn't enough. She hadn't violated the order directly. 2 weeks passed. Then one morning, as we walked our dog, we noticed a figure across the street. Sunglasses, hoodie, standing still, watching. It was her. I called the police immediately, but she was gone before they arrived. We installed more cameras, changed our routines, alerted our workplace and friends. Then came the final blow. A package arrived at our adoption agency containing photoshopped images of me holding crying children, paired with emails written in my name, expressing a desire to take what I deserve. The agency flagged it as manipulation, but said they needed time to assess the full risk. Again time. Mark broke down that night. "I just want us to be free," he said. "We will be," I promised. The next morning, Vanessa made a mistake. She showed up at the school where I used to teach, asking questions about the children I had worked with. The receptionist recognized her from the local news segment I had done last year and called the police. They arrested her for violating the restraining order. At the station, she screamed that we had ruined her life, stolen her legacy, turned her own family against her. The journal was submitted as evidence. Becca gave a full written statement. Daisy's recording was reviewed by a child psychologist and deemed credible. Charges were filed for harassment, tampering with medical products, and defamation. Vanessa was released on bail, but her online presence never recovered. Her sponsors dropped her. Parenting forums banned her. Her followers turned away. A few weeks later, the adoption agency called. Our application was reinstated. They apologized for the delays and praised our patience. "You've demonstrated extraordinary resilience," the caseworker said. "We'd be honored to match you." 3 months after that call, we held our daughter for the first time. She was a newborn with dark hair and wide eyes, swaddled in a pink blanket. We named her Hope Alithia, hope for the future we fought for. Alithia, reclaimed from manipulation, returned to truth. Daisy met her and cried. She held the baby and whispered, "You're safe now." Mark's parents visited often, always bringing flowers. His mother apologized again and again. "I should have listened," she said. "I was so blind. I forgave her. I forgave many people. But not Vanessa. That would take longer. Maybe forever." The last I heard, she had moved out of state, living in a women's shelter while awaiting trial. Her parental rights were terminated. Her children were safe with their father. As for us, we were healing. Slowly. Steadily. Some nights, I'd still wake up reaching for my stomach, remembering what was lost. But then I'd hear Hope breathing softly in her bassinet, and I'd remind myself what we had built. Out of ashes, something beautiful. Out of pain, something strong. Out of her lies, a truth that could never be stolen again.